The wonderful Neely Cousins. Thank you.
Hi, guys. How are you? You're so far back. Oh, I remember you. You were in my class before. Yes, I remember you. Okay, so you are not teens. How old are you guys? 12. All right, yeah, okay, close enough. And everybody goes to Herzliya? No, all over? But you're all from Cape Town. Do you know you live in the most gorgeous place in the world? Like, other than Israel? Israel's first, okay, but other than that, do you know this is like, or you're like so used to it you don't even see it anymore? You don't? No, you don't know. All right, at least you're honest. That's good. So it is really amazing to be here. My husband and I lived in Johannesburg for 2 years, about almost 20 years ago, 19 years ago. My husband was a rabbi with Aish Torah. So we started the Aish South Africa branch, Aish Joburg. And we were there for 2 years, and then we came to Cape Town for 1 month in December, 97. You guys were probably like not born then. Maybe some of you were babies, right? So we were here for 1 month in 97, and it's amazing. It's amazing to be back. But I really agree with you that you don't see exactly what's right in front of you, and sometimes that gets in the way of living an amazing life. So the amazing thing about teens is that you are at a stage of life where you can really be whatever you want to be. See, I teach all different ages. I teach a lot at universities in North America, and then I teach like your parents, like on trips to Israel, or I travel around the States a lot, I travel around the world a lot, and I speak to all different ages. And the great thing about people your age is that you're still finding out who you are. So when you find something that like resonates with you, you find a piece of wisdom, you can actually do something about it. And you're at a point in your life where things can shift for you. So it's very exciting to teach teenagers because you guys have a lot of questions and you have a lot of curiosity about the world because you're figuring out who you are, and sometimes that's hard and sometimes that's easy. But being a teen, I remember being a teen, man, it was really hard. So it gets so much better. Now is the time where you're fighting with everything and you're learning everything, and then you start figuring it out, and then it starts falling into place. There's one thing that I've noticed eludes everybody. And that is something that I want to talk to you about today. It's very, very easy to get this thing. Most people live their lives searching for it, searching for it, searching for it. They never get there, and they don't know what's wrong. But if you can figure out in an earlier part of your life how to get this one thing, the rest of your life will be amazing. And everything that Judaism is pointing us towards is Judaism wants you to love your life. We want you to have an amazing life. There's other religions that say like, this feels good, but don't do that. And this is really great, but don't do that. And they make the whole world this one big bait and switch. So Judaism doesn't do that. Judaism says, we want you to have pleasure in life. Pleasure is amazing. We don't think that God created all of this pleasure as one big bait and switch. We just think there's a time and a place for everything. So there's other religions that say don't get married. Could be totally fine for them. It's just not the Jewish way. We think getting married is a mitzvah. It's just there's different pleasures in life. There's donuts and there's saving a life. They're both pleasures. They're just not in the same zip code at all. So once you figure out how to get the most pleasure out of life, then you can figure out how to live a great life. So there's this one thing that eludes people. So let me try to get you to figure out what it is. So imagine someone says to you, you can have any car you want. I will pay for you to have any car you want. What car would you get? You. Yeah, you. Yeah, you. A Ferrari. You sound so much better when you say it. Ferrari, good. What car would you get? Don't know? Come on, you can choose wrong. A Maserati, good. How about you? No, you the one. A what? Ferrari also. Okay, good. Ferraris are popular. Somebody else. What kind of car would you get? A what? Aston Martin. You guys know your cars. Yes? A what? A limo. Let somebody else do the driving. Smart boy. Okay? A motorcycle, a minivan, whatever car you want to get. Okay, so now imagine you have your car. Okay, you're sitting in the driver's seat. What's the one thing you need to get your car to move? I know you're South African and you don't talk, okay, but I'm American, so you have to talk. This is how I work, okay? You have to be interactive. What's the one thing you need to get your car to move? Petrol. Oh, that's what you call it here? You call it petrol? Maybe we call it gas or gas. We call it gas, okay? Petrol. Gas, that's what we say. It's like a bad thing. I don't know. That's what we call it. Okay? Petrol. You need petrol, right? Without petrol, it doesn't matter how expensive your car is. You chose some really expensive cars. It doesn't matter how expensive your car is. It doesn't matter how important your plans are. It doesn't matter how important you are. None of that matters. You have no petrol, you're not going anywhere. Unless you have an electric car. Absolutely. This is a Jewish kid. Very smart. Yes. So actually, it's in my notes to say that. If it's not petrol, it's electricity, but one or the other. If your battery's dead, you're not going anywhere. So it still works. So this is an analogy. Whenever you're learning Torah, you have to know you're not just reading text, you're cracking code. Every time you read anything in the Torah, in the Bible, we have a concept. And in the 5 books, this only works in the 5 books of Moses. It doesn't work in any other book. But in the 5 books of Moses, right, with the Torah scroll that they take out of the ark, in that book, when you read that book is written in code. So anytime anything goes funny in the text, you're not just reading text, you're cracking code. So how will the code look? It'll look like the spelling is wrong. There's an extra letter, or it's missing a letter. Or the grammar goes funny. Like when the Jews are camping around Mount Sinai when the Torah is being given, it's 3 million people camping, so it should say, and they camped around the mountain. It doesn't say that. It says, and he camped around the mountain. So like, what is that? Why is it singular? There's 3 million people there. That's code. Anytime you're reading the Torah text, anytime you see anything go funny, that's your crack in the matrix. That's your red flag. Dig here. Something's buried here. And this code has been working over thousands of years, over hundreds of generations. This code works. We're still leaning out. So it's good to learn things in code. It's like, I'm telling you this about a car and petrol or electricity, but I'm really telling you this. There's something deeper. If you hear this sentence, the eagle has landed, and you think, oh, how nice, an eagle landed. You missed it. That's not what that sentence was trying to tell you. Okay, this story is telling you something else. It's not about a car and petrol. The car are your goals in life. I don't know what your goals are. You may not know what your goals are yet, but you are going to have them. And your goals are very personal. Just like if I would have gone to each person here, each one of you may have chosen a different car. Your goals are going to be very different in life, but there's one thing everybody needs. What's the petrol in that car? The petrol in that car is happiness. If you are happy, you will be able to reach any goal that you have, and you will be able to appreciate it once you get there. I cannot tell you how many times it has happened that a person spends their entire life chasing a dream, chasing a goal, and they think that happiness will be waiting for them in some cute little wrapped up box next to their goal. So let me tell you right now, at the start of your journey, it will not be waiting for you. Happiness is not waiting for you when you ace the test, when you get the girl, when you get the guy, when you get into that school, when you get the job. It's not waiting for you anywhere. You have to pack happiness if you want it. Most people go through life, they do not know that happiness is a skill. They think that happiness is a result of getting what you want, and it's not. Happiness is a skill that you can learn, and I can teach it to you right now. It is very simple. People think this is complicated or elusive, and it's not. So, can you guys play a game for a second? Can we do 2 experiments? Yes? Okay, I need everybody to stand up. Come on, don't roll your eyes. I saw that. You're such teenagers. Okay, girls over here and boys over here. Girls, you have to come in front of the stairs. You can't, in front of the chairs. You can't be in the chairs. Guys, over here, up here in the front, come on. They were supposed to seat you like this so we wouldn't waste time. Girls over here, guys over here. Okay, now, here's the experiment. The experiment is this. I know a lot of you came in, it looks like you guys have a lot of friends here, you all look very popular. Okay, I'm sure you know a lot of people here. For the purposes of this experiment, you don't know anyone. Okay, you're all perfect strangers, you got it? You don't know anybody here. That's the first experiment. Now, the first experiment has 2 parts to it. In the first part of this experiment, I'm going to ask you in a minute, not right now, I'm going to ask you in a minute, to introduce yourself to all the strangers standing around. You don't know anybody, okay? I'm going to give you about 10 seconds. Say hello, shake hands with the people standing next to you, okay? That's why I separated you, okay? Shake hands and say hello to the people standing around you, maybe 3, 4 people, but here's the catch, okay? In part 1 of the experiment, I want you to pretend that saying hello to these people Nothing could be a bigger waste of your time than saying hello to them, okay? You don't know how, you're all teenagers, you know how to do this, okay? You don't know how you ended up here with all of these losers, okay? And now you have to say hello, but like, fine, you'll do it, okay? Totally bored, nothing could be more aggravating to you. Ready, set, go. Introduce yourselves, say hello, be bored. Good. Okay, time's up. Shh, come back to me. Shh, time's up. Look back at me. Okay, how you feeling? Good. Terrible. Good. All right, just go like this. Just get out of that state. Go like this with your hands. Just go like that. Come on, I see if you're doing it or not, ladies. Come on, let's thank you. Okay, now, part 2 of the experiment is this. Same thing. Everybody's around you is a total stranger. You don't know anybody here. But in this part of the experiment, I want you to act as if you think it's all strangers, you know anybody, and you turn around and you see like your best friend from camp. Like you haven't seen them since last year and like, oh my gosh, there they are, okay? 10 seconds, introduce yourself like that, like it's your best friend, and I want it to be loud. I want them to come in from the hallway. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go, 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 go. Okay, excellent. Sit back down. Let's get the results of our experiment. Sit down, sit down, sit down. You have lots of friends. I heard that. Okay, so now let's ask some questions to get the results of our experiment. Okay, by a show of hands, which one made you feel more drained? Raise your hand if the first time made you feel more drained. Raise your hand if the second time made you feel more energized. The second time, did you use less of your face or more? Second time, use less of your body or more? More. So what did we just see? We just saw that how you act affects how you feel almost immediately. Imagine you have a tough day at school, so you're in a bad mood. Totally fair, happens to everybody. You had a rough day, you're in a horrible mood. So you come home, and you're snapping at everybody because you're moping and you're in a bad mood, and that's totally fair. So you come in, and your mother's like, hey, how was your day? You're like, oh, fine, okay? And then you see your little brother, and you're like, what are you doing there, right? And you yell at him. And then you go to your room, and it's like so neat. You're like, why don't I have any privacy? How come people are always in my stuff? Or you go to your room, and it's so messy, you're like, how come my room's a mess? What, my room doesn't get clean? No matter what happens, you're in a bad mood. So now you're snapping at everybody, which puts you in a worse mood. So now you snap at more people, and you're in a worse mood. So you snap at more people. You see that? It's a cycle. So how do you break that? Well, we just saw. If you want to be happy, just start acting happy. It works almost immediately. Because that whole thing was fiction. It wasn't true. It wasn't true that you didn't know anybody. It wasn't true it was your best friend from camp. The whole thing was made up. But yet, when you act in a certain way, it affects how you feel almost immediately. And science knows this. Science has discovered there's such a thing called endorphins. You know what endorphins are? Endorphins are like a chemical that make you happy, and they're released when you smile. So when you smile, chemically speaking, you get happier. And then when you're happier, you smile more. When my kids are in a bad mood, I'll make them smile for 30 seconds. And they'll be like, this is really stupid, Mom. And I'm like, I know, 20 more seconds left. By the time they're done, they're laughing. They can't help it. It's a chemical fact. Except the Torah has been telling us this for thousands of years. There's a concept in Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, Hevei mekabel et kol ha'adam b'sever panim yafot. Greet everyone with a beautiful smile. The mitzvah could have said, if somebody says hello to you, smile back and say hello. That's a fine mitzvah. There's nothing wrong with that mitzvah. It's not what the Torah says. The Torah says, be the kind of person who smiles first. It changes everything, but most of all, it changes you. I'm going to finish with one more experiment. Don't worry, you don't have to get up. You don't have to talk to anybody. Be very antisocial, okay? In this experiment, this is an observation experiment. I'm going to give you 5 seconds. Look around the room and just see all the things you can that are red. Ready? Go. Look for red, look for red, look for red, 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 red. Good. Close your eyes. Call out all the things you saw that were blue. Open your eyes. Now, look for blue. Your cap, right? This kid, he's blue. Look for blue, 5 seconds. Look for blue, look for blue, look for blue, 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 blue. Good. Show of hands. How many people saw more blue the second time? Raise your hand. How many people saw more red the first time? The first time, how many people saw maroon and called it red just to feel successful? Come on. You know who you are. So what did we just learn? You will find what you're looking for. And if you're not looking for it, you will miss what is right in front of you. And if you're looking for one thing, you'll find something that's almost that thing, and you'll call it that just to feel successful. And I'm sure you know people like this. They go out to see a movie, and the movie's not showing. And they're like, you know what? I'm so happy the movie wasn't showing because we got to walk around and talk. We went out for coffee. It was so much better. I had the best day. Don't you know people like that? And then there's other people, no matter what happens, they find the negative. They'll be like, yeah, the front row free tickets to the concert. It was nice, but oh God, it was so loud. And like to find the bathroom, I needed a compass, right? No matter what happens, they see the negative. Why? Because you will find what you're looking for. So you have to check, what am I looking for in life? If you look for the positive, you will find it. If you look for the negative, you will find that too. This is why we have a mitzvah not to speak lashon hara gossip. People think like, oh, don't speak bad about people. I'm like, that's true. But you know what a deeper understanding of this mitzvah is if you're talking about the negative, it means you're focusing on the negative. And you know who suffers the most? You do. If you look for the positive, you will find the positive. This is the secret to happiness. Trust me, so many people spend 45 years doing it wrong. You're young, do it right. If you look for the good, you will find the good. If you act happy, you will feel happy. This is like a switch. It's a skill. You just have to do it, and you will succeed. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. After that first session with some social experimentation and some nice engaging ideas, thank you so much, Nili. We now have next Rabbi Elimelech Goldberg, who is a really unbelievable person who started an amazing organization called Kids Kicking Cancer. I'm not going to tell his story. He's going to have the chance to tell you. He might do a few breathing exercises, I think, as well, maybe. But a really engaging session for the teens. This is a real power one to look forward to. So without further ado, the next 20 minutes, Rabbi Goldberg.
Thank you so much. Anybody here heard of the Detroit Pistons? Detroit Pistons is the Detroit basketball team. I live in Detroit. And last week, I was invited to bring 10 kids from Kids Kicking Cancer. Wow, that's me. I'm taller than that, too. Something wrong with the camera. So I brought 10 of our Kids Kicking Cancer kids to teach the Detroit Pistons how to breathe in the light and blow out the darkness. We teach martial arts to kids who are going through some real tough stuff. And they told me to go into the huddle before I started to talk to the Pistons. I walk into this huddle. The guy on my right is 7'3". Like close to the ceiling here. The short guy on my left is 6'9". I don't know how to translate that into meters and stuff, but it's real tall. And he was a short guy. So I walk into this huddle and I'm looking around and I say, hi, my name's Rabbi G. I'm here for the tryouts. And they didn't get it. But when the kids started to teach them how to breathe in the light and blow out the darkness, they got it. And it was like really cool because they're the superheroes. So we've had tons of superheroes. There's a guy who plays Batman, the name of Christian Bale. Anybody ever see Batman? I was going to wear my cape, but he has a problem with figuring out where to put the tzitzis on the cape, so I didn't wear my cape. But Christian wanted to come and teach, to bring toys to the kids at Sloan Kettering Hospital in New York. Those of you who know geography, New York is located very close to the United States. So Christian, I said, no, we don't do, Christian, by the way, is not Jewish. I said to him, no, we don't do that. You're going to come, and our Kids Kicking Cancer kids are going to teach you how to breathe in the light and blow out the darkness, because he has an anger issue. He was supposed to stay for 20 minutes. 2 hours later, he's playing with the kids who came in their karate uniform to teach them how to deal with anger. Because in the martial arts, you learn that pain, stress, all of that stuff, if you're uptight and you're in a fight, you're dead. Because the ability to defend this and take out this and know what's coming at you is your ability to use your breath to take control. And it works in a fight, and it works on taking a test. So I'm going to show you very quickly. There's a video that was made at one of the hospitals in Boston, Massachusetts. And they showed this at the dinner this past year. It's one of my favorite videos because it features me heavily. And but it'll give you a little idea of what we do and the story of kids kicking cancer. Gentlemen, we got it? Wow, it really works.
Feel the coolness of the air as you breathe in and the warmth as you breathe out. You could just let it fall through the floor because you're a powerful martial artist. It was at Camp Simcha that I came across the reality that I now lecture about in the medical world. I came upon this 5-year-old child in the infirmary in camp who was having his port access for his chemotherapy. 2 nurses are pinning him down. A 3rd nurse has a large syringe to plunge into his chest. And I just said to the nurses, give me 5 minutes with this child. And I said to him, you know, I'm a black belt, which doesn't mean much, but to a little kid, it's a wow. I said, do you want me to teach you some karate? He almost jumped off the table. I explained to him, in the martial arts, you learn that pain is a message you don't have to listen to. You could breathe in this amazing chi, this energy, and push out the pain. Watch me. 20 minutes later, they pulled out the needle, and he looked up at the nurse and he said, did you do it yet? And that's when Kids Kicking Cancer was born.
Power, peace, purpose.
If you have a drug that works on 30% of the population, you have a hit. If you have a drug that works on 40% of the population, you're a superstar. 85% of the kids had a reduction in pain, of which the general across-the-board average of pain reduction was 40%. That's the remarkability of Kids Kicking Cancer.
My mom got a phone call from one of the social workers, said, hey, there's this guy that wants to start a karate class for kids that have cancer. You think Michael would be interested?
I'm thinking about getting my daughter well. I'm not thinking about no program.
The martial arts is the carrot, but the key is giving the kids that internal strength for them to know that they can fight anything that comes their way. Not a physical opponent, but just the things that's going on within their body, and then the exterior things too, like frustration, anger.
It's so empowering for them to come somewhere and feel like they have power, like they have purpose, like they're in control for that minute of time.
Good job.
We started coming, and the more she came, the more stronger she became. She'd just take her deep breaths, and she'll just get her shot done and be out before you know it.
Doctors were still wanting to put me on pain medications, and I'd tell them, no, I'm a powerful martial artist. I'm gonna just breathe through it, push out the pain.
You breathe in the light and you blow out the darkness. The light can be anything peaceful, nice, like world peace. You breathe out the darkness, like when something hurts really badly.
We let our kids know you can fight that. You don't have to fall a victim to it.
It just taught me to be strong about what I'm going through and taught me to teach the world.
Their purpose is to teach the world. Once they've learned these techniques, once they've mastered them, now they have to go show the world.
You know, if you can make someone's life here a little easier while we're here, because none of us are getting out here alone.
7, 8, 9.
1, 2, 3.
Good. Breathe in the light and push out the darkness. The greatest tragedy is not the death of a child. Some of these children have impacted this world so powerfully, and that light's forever. To me, the greatest tragedy is to be with someone who's 95 years old, who's dying, and they don't have a clue why they lived. My first teacher for the therapy of kids kicking cancer began with my daughter. Today, her disease, leukemia, is a very, very treatable children's illness, but it wasn't the same thing 34 years ago. She would lie on top of me during the bone marrow transplant at UCLA. But one day she pushed herself off of me, and I saw her eyes were rolling back as if she were going into shock. And I said, "So Basha, come back to Abba." And she looked at me and she said, "No." And I said to her, well, we can go here. We go to the zoo. We can go all the places we talked about and dreamt about leaving the hospital to go to. And very clearly, she kept saying no. Then I asked her, where do you want to go? The bed at UCLA was right next to the window, and she pointed up to heaven. And I said, do you want to go to Hashem? Which means God. And she said, yes. And that's when she took the bottle and began to drink it and seemed to calm down. But at that point, I felt I was talking to an old soul, and I begged her to stay. But in the process of her life and in her death, she taught us that no matter what we face in our lives, we can breathe in the light and blow out the darkness, and know that when you can illuminate this planet, which can know so much darkness, with that light, it makes all the difference in the world.
One more strong bow.
Power, peace, power, peace, purpose.
Power, peace, purpose.
And that's power, peace, purpose.
Each of those three words: power,
Feel the coolness of the air as you breathe in.
peace, and purpose. That no matter what you're facing in your life, you could pull in this amazing energy. In the martial arts, we call it chi or ki, Tanagadalam in the Philippines, prana in India. We call it neshama, the soul, light. Because if a person is placed and keeps in that place of darkness, of stress, and who here has stress? Who here goes to school? Who here has that little concern about what if people don't like my socks? Or I feel a little strange because I'm a teenager. But you don't realize that every teenager feels strange. Or you're dealing with stuff and dealing with folks. Except for my wife and I, nobody's had perfect parents, right? And you're dealing with life, and it makes you tight inside. In the martial arts, you learn if you're tight, you can't respond with power. The ability to pull in this light, pull in this energy, and to actually breathe out the stressors make all the difference in the world. In a medical school, in hospitals across the globe, we teach how to lower stress. We teach this to kids, and we said, hey, if we could teach kids, we could teach adults. We'll just talk slower. As we started to bring this to companies across the globe, the ability to take control is inside of you, inside of every single person here. You have that strength. You have that capability. In the martial arts, we use the breath. Who knows how to say breathe, a breath, in Hebrew? It's a neshima, which is very much like, what word? Neshama. The breath connects us to our real power. That's the soul inside of ourselves. So when we're facing down stuff, every time we have a stress reaction, you know what happens in your body? The muscles get tight. But besides your muscles getting tight, it messes up a whole slew of things inside of your health and your future. And your ability to think is compromised when you're in stress. So if you ever sit at a test and you look at the first question and you get stumped because it says name and you don't know if spelling counts, right? And you're looking at that and you get so uptight, you could absolutely stop the stress response with simple breathing. And I'll show you how it works. We recommend breathing in the nose and out the mouth. If that doesn't work for you, you could use your ears. It doesn't matter. But the key to the breath is to use, when you blow out, the exhale to relax your muscles. So it looks like this. You're breathing in, but when you breathe in, you actually lift your body all the way up with the breath. We do this in Tai Chi, type of Chinese martial arts. You lift your body all the way up. I always have to watch out for the ceiling for me. And you lift your all the way up, so it looks like this. You're breathing in slowly through your nose, up, up, up. When you're at the very last part of that breath, take in a little bit more and hold that for 3 days. No, I'm sorry, for 3 seconds. So it looks like this. You're breathing in, 2, 3. And in the exhale, when you're breathing out through your mouth slowly, you feel your shoulders relax, your back, your stomach, and at the very last part of your breath, breathe out a little bit more. If you ever go to classes of higher level martial artists, the focus on breath is extraordinary. The ability to use your breath really connects you to your neshama. Let's do it together. Actually, it's a great audience. I noticed that almost all of you have been breathing since I walked in. So that's excellent, excellent. But when you focus on your breathing, you actually take control over your brain. And when your body feels that it's relaxing, you know what happens? The stress chemicals coming out of your adrenal gland, called glucocorticoids, you will be responsible for this on the test on Tuesday. No, I'm joking. No stress. But it actually shuts off the stress chemicals. So let's do it together. Let's breathe in slowly through your nose. Lift up your body with the breath. And hold it. And now let it out slowly through your mouth. Feel your shoulders fall, your chest, your chin. And as you finally, at the last little bit, one more time. But this time, and we don't have a lot of time to do like really any meditations, but this time what I'd like you to do, the martial arts is very focused on imagery. Before we like break a brick or break a board, you actually have to see yourself breaking through it. You have to see it break. If you see in the image your hands breaking, don't do it. Bad sign. Got it? So I'd like you to image this incredible light, this aura, coming into yourself as you're breathing in. And you're filling yourself all the way up with this light. But you don't want to get rid of that light. You want to get rid of the darkness, the bad feelings. Why are mom and dad arguing? Why are they making fun of me? What did I do bad on the... What if this happens? What if that happens? And absolutely just blow that out. Because when you blow that out, you take control over your body. And that's very powerful. So let's breathe in the light. Let's do it to imagine you're bringing in this incredible light. And blow out any darkness, any fear or anger or stress. Feel your body relax. One more time. Breathe in the light. Feel it come up through your body. And then blow out the darkness. So now I was teaching a guy named Gerard Butler after he made a big movie. And he had pain in his back because he was bulking up. He was the king of Sparta. When I was teaching him how to do the breath break, and we've taught this to Miley Cyrus also, but it didn't help Miley. When you use this breath break, and you pull in that light and you blow out the darkness, there are 2 words in Korean that we teach everybody. Anybody here speak Korean? 2 words in Korean we teach everyone. You ready? Baruch Hashem. It's really not Korean. But like, what does that mean, Baruch Hashem? Who are we to bless God? So Rav Shimon ben Hader, the Rashba, says, you know what Baruch Hashem means? It's like a breaker, it's like a stream. I can pull in whatever's happening in my life because it's coming from Hashem. I feel that connection. And God willing, when you feel that light, when you feel that energy take control, and you could push out the bad feelings simply with your breath, a lot of really great stuff happens in your brains and in your body. The ability when we have a guy over there with a knife pointed at us, and this guy has a baseball bat, and the other guy has a chain, they teach us on the higher level of black belt, hey buddy, you're in trouble. If you get tight and uptight, you're dead. The ability to take control of anything in our life comes from connecting to our soul, breathing in the light, and blowing out the darkness. So whatever you're facing, the next time you sit down to that test, and you're not sure how to spell your own name, and you're saying, math, I thought this was a history test. The next time you're in that situation, or somebody says something that hurts you, or someone does something that really makes you feel bad, you have a choice. You can respond with darkness because that's absolutely natural. And I'm one of the world's leading experts in this because most of my friends are humans. That's how human beings respond. The heroic response, the Torah response is, as a people, no matter what we face in our lives, we can breathe in the light and blow out the darkness. And when we could do that, the people around you are saying, wow, that's your purpose, to teach the world. That's what it really means to be a light to the nations. There's no such thing as a powerful light unless it can illuminate a lot of darkness. Everybody's got stuff. Everybody has darkness. That's the way our scripts are written. But when you respond to that script with breathing in the light and blowing out the darkness, you, ladies and gentlemen, change the world. And that's what we call power, peace, purpose. Thank you very much.
What's that? That's my theme music in the back there. Shkoyach. How you guys doing? Hazdei Hashem. So they want me to say what I said in an hour earlier this morning in 20 minutes. Good luck. It's not going to happen. But Hazdei Hashem. I want to tell you my story in and of itself. Rabbi went and got my rap microphone. I'm not going to rap here. But you can bring it up. Maybe I'll come down. Maybe not. Let's see if it's shy. No previews. Tonight's tonight. Anyway, so my story is really interesting. It's not just, like I explained some this morning, the dark, gloomy side and different things like that. It's really a love story. My story is it's mamish a love story. How's that? I didn't come, unlike a lot of you maybe, who grew up maybe in a Jewish home and maybe in a Jewish environment, and maybe you were exposed to Judaism in a certain way that makes you feel sometimes that you're bogged down. It's not so easy to do this. And, the number one question all the time, like I mentioned this morning, that I always get is, why would you do it? Why would you become Jewish? You leave cheeseburgers, you leave all those things behind. Trust me, cheeseburgers are not that great. That was one of the first things to go. It's very easy, the cheeseburger. Anyway, but the thing was for me is that nothing other than the fact that I fell in love with Hashem. And one of the things all the time that I see is that because I didn't, and myself, nobody was forcing me to do anything, I was able to just fall in love with Hashem. How'd that happen? Now, growing up, my first introduction to any religion was Islam. My grandfather was a Sunni Muslim. And when I was 13 years old, after my grandfather went to prison, that's where a lot of Muslims are, Mecca Shani, I call it. But anyway, so my grandfather ended up back in prison. And then from that time on, if anybody would have asked me, I would have just told them I'm a Muslim. So when I was 13 years old, I had friends that were very adamant about taking me to this camp, to this day camp. And there they had a hip-hop program, and they knew I was really into rap. It was my thing. So I started going to this place. And then later on, they invited me to go to camp. And when I went to camp, it was 8 days of fun, and it got me out of my home environment. Now, what was my home environment like? My parents, they sold drugs. My father sold drugs. My mother sold drugs. And I also joined the family business when I got around 12 years old or something like that. I was doing drugs. I was already a heavy pot smoker by the time I was 10 years old. And they were growing in my room, a very hot room. Those lights, they'll burn you up very fast. I didn't need any heat. I hate to see what my parents' electricity bill was like also. But anyway, I started life very, very fast, very, very fast. And so when I had this time to slow down while I was at this camp, it opened me up and I was able to think for the first time and have my head open up to new things and new ideas. And a good thing about that camp was, and the day camp, was that they exposed me to normal, healthy relationships, if there's such a thing. But I knew for sure what was going on at my house was not normal. So fast forwarding a little bit, by the time I was in the 10th grade of high school, I had a major moment. And this moment, I don't really know how to describe it. All I know is that I walked into the high school, my high school doors. It was during the lunch period. And this moment that I describe as just the moment, I felt completely out of place. I felt like there was something that I knew that other people didn't know, that there was a certain knowledge that I had. I didn't know what it was. I wouldn't know how to describe it, but there was something that I had. And after I ate a chicken nugget, it went away. But it was a very, very strong feeling. Later on, the next year, I was offered a record contract from Virgin Records. And the thing is that by this time, I was very, very devout, very, very strong in playing football. I was a football jockey, American football, real football, sorry. I'm just joking. Soccer is obvious, probably more popular, but it's soccer and not football. Just want to clarify that. Anyway, so I was very, very into football, jockey by day, and I was a musician by night. And so my demo had made it to these guys' to A&R's desk, and so I started getting calls from this record label. And so we're talking back and forth, all these different things. And one of the things that was big in rap was a guy by the name of 50 Cent. Shame on you if you know him. Never mind. Everybody knows him. Well, you should know he's broke now, so he went bankrupt with everybody else. But anyway, this guy became very, very popular in the rap world, and he was known for being a very disrespectful and whatever type of person. And my first encounter with anything with him is that I want to say it was in 2007. I would produce a song for one of the artists that was on 50 Cent's record label. His name was Young Buck. And Young Buck decided that he would leave the G-Unit family of 50 Cent. And not only will he leave, he'd go out with a bang. He'd make a very, very disrespectful song to 50 Cent. And there was no other than I got a call from the A&R from the record label at the time. And he said, he called me and he called Yosef, my brother-in-law, and he said, wake up, go look on the internet. I want you to see something. There was me singing and the music that I made with my brother there. And it's a diss song against 50 Cent, and millions of people have seen it. So now I'm shaking in my boots because now obviously I got a big beef. Good thing that nothing happened from that. But what did happen was something that's very powerful the next time, is that myself, I started to blow up on my own. The record deal that I wanted to make happen with the Virgin Records, it didn't go through. And although they offered me $500,000, and I started cursing because of it, and I started being very, very, I was going down a path that wasn't good for me. And I seen that it wasn't a path good for me because it was a path that I left before I was 13 years old when I was hanging out with the wrong guys. So by the time I was sitting there one day, and I was sitting there listening to my music, and I was just kind of meditating, thinking about all the different things that had just transpired over the last few years, making that song, this song. And a friend of mine came to me and he said, listen, I want you to hear this song. So he played for me this song. And it happened to be another rapper who was speaking very, very disrespectful about me on the song. So we pulled together the Sanhedrin, all of our chevra, we got together, and we discussed what would be the best thing for us to do to take action, because if I make another song back at this guy, he's just going to make another song and we're giving him PR. So we decided that we're just going to beat the guy up. He won't make any more songs. It'd be very, very simple. So we ended up going, find this guy. We got into a big brawl at a nightclub, just like all the Western movies. And so after the fight, we all left. Everybody went their separate ways. Now, I got a call from a friend who said that the police are looking for you. I said, what are the police looking for me for? They said that the police are looking for you because they said that you took a gun and you were shooting inside of the nightclub, and you were shooting, and this is what they said you did. And I knew for myself I didn't have a gun, but somebody calling you and tell the police is looking for you, I still have a problem. I live in Israel. I've never seen anybody pulled over, but every time I see sirens, I start pulling over. I think they're going to check me. License, insurance, anything. So, but for whatever reason, I was very, very afraid. So I got out, I left out, and I broke the code of the streets because I seen the sirens flashing off the walls when I got outside, and they weren't near me. They were down a ways, maybe half a block away. And I was always taught whenever you see police lights, you go the opposite direction. I started walking towards it. So I don't know if everybody in the old hood would be happy that I started walking towards the police, but I started walking. And when I got closer and closer, I realized that it was a good friend of mine. And this friend of mine went up in my defense, and he went to go kill the guy that I had the beef with. The good thing was he missed. The bad thing was he missed. The good was, it's only good now because now I can see in retrospect, thank God, a person, another individual, he didn't lose his life. But at that time, I'm thinking, what's going to be? because now it had every appearance that I sent this guy to go and take this other person's life. And now I know the code of the streets is very, very simple. Either I go and take this guy out, or he's going to take my life. In these times, in these moments, Hashem is he's very, very much enabled to show a person who you really are. So when I got to that inner point of realizing that this was going to be my life, I'm going to have to watch my back and not know if this other person is going to come and take my life or not, I started praying and I started crying. I was pacing back and forth in my living room 3 days, crying, pacing, back and forth, crying about the situation. And on the third day, a miracle happened. I got a phone call. And that phone call was the other rapper. And whatever, he was trying to maintain his ground, but he wanted to find out what the situation was. If I sent that person to go and try to kill him, what the situation was. And after we squashed everything, I had to make a cheshbon. I had to sit and I thought. And I said, if I continue to go in this type of way, the next time it could be the real thing, or else I have to do something different in my life. So I decided to do something different. I didn't know what that was going to be, but I just continued praying, walking back and forth. And as time went by, I started to ask more questions, and the questions started to resurface from when I was a young kid, and I was in Bible study. Oh, 10 minutes. Oh, great. Listen, these signs are great for me. I keep you guys here till tomorrow night. I already said more than what I wanted to say. So anyway, I'm thinking, now, I got to do this new thing, and I'm walking back and forth, I'm pacing. Now all these questions are coming up to me, and these are questions that I had as a young kid in Bible study that I would ask the people, and nobody would ever give me a solid enough answer. So now I'm left on an island on my own, and I want to go find out. And I went to the best rabbi that I could possibly go to. Sorry, Rabbi Wallace, I don't want to, disrespect you. But this Rav was, I haven't seen a Rav that touched them yet. His name is Rabbi Google. RabbiGoogle.com. Rav Agon Shlita of Google. I went to Rav Google, and I started typing in all these different questions that I have, and I sat with him. I sat with Rabbi Google, and I would go back and forth. And then before you know it, Rabbi Google started leading me to these books, and I started buying more books and more books. And my wife, at the time, she thought I was crazy. She didn't know what was going on. For all she knew, half of it was in English, half of it was in hieroglyphics. She didn't know what was going on with these books. And I'm trying to dig to the root and trying to find out what's the truth. What's the truth? And time went by, and I went back to Rabbi Google. And I ended up in this congregation. And before I went back to Rabbi Google, I ended up in this congregation. They were half Judeo, half Christian. They were somewhere in the mix, and it was a big mix, getting funky with it, mixing. Anyway, so this mix it was very, very confusing, although it seemed like it was a solid place for me to land without me making any major and drastic moves in my life. So the more and more I started to learn, though, to try to catch up with this mix and try to find out what the truth of everything was, I started going back to Rabbi Google. And anytime I went to Rabbi Google, anything I typed in, Chabad.org came up. And every time I typed in anything, no matter what happened, whatever I would type in, Judaism, Jewish holidays, Michael Jackson, Elvis Presley, Chabad.org came up. So I started going on here. We found the Chabad that wasn't far from us, so we started going to this Chabad. And it just over time, the more and more we grew, it got further and further away from that looking for God and authenticity, serving God and authenticity. So it's very, very hard for me to stay in this place. So I have to end up leaving. I remember being so torn and so broken, and I was going back and forth with myself. And I said, God, I've studied these 3 religions, and I've gone back and forth through them. And I said to myself, but if I believe in Islam, God changed his mind a couple times. At least a couple times he had amnesia and he needed to fix things and things needed to be corrected. If I believed in Christianity, God at least changed his mind one time. He had to change the game a little bit one time. But I concluded that if I was to believe in Judaism, God never changed his mind. No matter what, God didn't change his mind. It wasn't all of a sudden he had amnesia. So that was one of the powerful things for me. The second thing was when I started, I told God that I want to read Tanakh, but I want to read cover from cover, but I'm not looking to be a scholar. I'm not looking for any extra information other than what do you love, what do you hate, what do you reward, what do you punish. I want to know. And I only wanted to know who God was. And the biggest thing, the biggest impact that I had was when I kept going to the prophets. Every time I went to the prophets, and you understand me as a non-Jew, I'm reading the prophets and seeing the overwhelming love that God had for the Jewish people, my heart continued to open up, and I was crying back and forth, and I felt so like an outsider. And I said, Hashem, I also want in. And the more and more I would speak and I would talk to God, it would open me up. And I remember one day, after talking and going through this wild circle of events of what was going on in my life, and I talked to my wife, and she said that I too feel like I've been lied to my whole entire life. And later on she said to me that I want to make an Orthodox conversion. So I ended up moving, and it was very funny because, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier when I spoke, but that neighborhood, when all that nonsense was going on with me, just one block up was in the Jewish neighborhood. And I knew Jews all the time. I seen people around, but the only connection I had was on Saturday when I wanted to ride my bike. They were covering up all the whole entire streets. I was very upset about it. But other than that, they didn't have any problems. But that was my only connection. I used to walk through the shuls to go to elementary school, and I had no idea about anything. But after that, my wife told me she wanted the Orthodox conversion, so we moved. And it wasn't just me. It was me, my wife, her sister, and my best friend since kindergarten, who's married to her sister. And that is my Jewish journey. I have time for like 2 questions. Thank you guys so much. I still have contact with my parents. One thing I didn't mention in the story, my mother died of an overdose when I was 19. She was 37, unfortunately. So she, not too much contact I can have with her. There are people that are in that business. Torah says you can't do it, though. But other than that, the rest of my family, no, not so much. Not so much. It's very, very difficult. I moved to Jerusalem a year ago yesterday, or the day before. It was a year ago. My wife also said, she said, I haven't been there for a whole year because now I'm here with you guys. But I've been paying the bills there for a year. So it's very, very difficult to be in touch with my family. It's all the way in Seattle. And I found it also, too, very hard to expose my children to a lifestyle that I'm no longer in. And a lot of my family, unfortunately, are still involved in that lifestyle. So it's very, very tough to make the two worlds meet. Well, part of it I said because I had to make a calculation. I was looking at all of them, and I realized that the only thing, this is later on said, I think in Aryeh Kaplan's books and different things like this, but it was an actual thought that I think a lot of people I've talked to that went through a conversion, maybe from Christianity or Islam, but you start to think about things and you say that, listen, the Jewish story is in their story, but their story isn't in the Jewish story. And it was very, very much so like I would have to come to grips with the fact that God changed his mind a couple times, because those religions are very much so saying that, and they allude to that. And then also, if God changes his mind that time, what stops him the next time the next guy wakes up and he had a prophecy also too? It can keep going, and the story never ends, 100 years later, 1,000 years later. So I think that was one of the biggest things for me. Other than that, I was speaking to another couple here earlier about this, is that the fact that Judaism pushes for the question. In Christianity there's a lot of issue with a lot of texts, and a lot of the scholars even know this, that this text wasn't in, this wasn't in the earliest text, and different things like that. Now, with Judaism, if you go through Gemara, you go through the Rebbeim, they're not letting that go. Why is this a contradiction? We have a contradiction here, and we're fighting and digging into the text. In Christianity, you got to accept it with faith. Don't deal with it. So that ability for the vulnerability that Judaism provided, with the fact of I'm going to ask the question, I'm going to fight, that was very, very huge for me. Very, very huge for me.
How are you guys doing? One honest person. No. What are the ages? What's the older age in the room? How old are you guys back there? Yeah, how old? 19. All right. Okay. Okay, so friends, I want to ask you a question. Very simple question. Close your eyes for a moment. Everybody close your eyes. No one's going to pickpocket you. So close your eyes. Not everybody's doing it. You can trust me. Close your eyes. Not everybody's. Close your eyes. It's going to be an interesting thing. Close your eyes. Okay, now, keep your eyes closed. Very simple question. I'm going to ask you to point north. Keep your eyes closed, and whatever way you think is north, extend your arm fully north, but don't open your eyes. Keep your eyes closed and extend your arm fully. You have to keep your arm extended. Don't. Keep your arm extended. It doesn't matter what way you choose. Whatever you think, it's fine. Just keep your eyes closed. Don't look what anybody else is doing, and keep your arms fully extended, all of you. Good, good. A bit more. Now raise them a bit higher. They're a bit low. High, yeah? Okay. Now everybody keep them where they are. Open up your eyes and look around the room. That's why we were in the desert for 40 years. It's your ancestors. So if you have a smartphone and you look, you will see that north is that way. North is that way. That's true north. In many ways, and it doesn't change. Obviously, it doesn't change. If people could point, true north remains true. So in many ways, we're Jewish people. And one of the key ingredients that allowed the Jewish people to live for thousands of years and be here today was because the Torah, our tradition that we're familiar with, was the Jewish true north. It always pointed the Jewish people in a very beautiful way in terms of morality, culture, holiness, family life. And because the Torah, which transcends kind of the personal opinion, you see, it's very easy for everybody to create their own value system. Everybody could do that. But the problem you would have then is the same problem we just had in the room. Everybody pointed to a direction, but everybody points to a different direction. So when everybody creates their own moral system, even if it's nice, what you would have is everybody creating something very different. What our tradition and the Torah has gifted the Jewish people is a true north, a moral true north, which our ancestors, your parents and grandparents have cherished and brought you up with, some more, some less, but everybody in their home to a certain extent. And that has lifted Jews and brought us to this very special day, to this occasion for thousands of years. So now we have 10 minutes. I can do two things. I could talk, I could tell you stories, or what I prefer to do is take 3 or 4 questions randomly from whoever raises their hand, and I'm going to speak for 10 minutes about whatever those questions are. So I'd prefer to do that because then it's going to be meaningful to you guys. I don't know exactly what you guys are interested in. So if you could we have 4 people that are not shy. Raise their hand. Any question that you were embarrassed to ask, Judaism, not Judaism, any question. If you raise your hand, take 4 questions in 10 minutes and we'll discuss that topic. If not, as a rabbi, I'll pick a topic. It's going to be boring. So better you pick it. So go, I'm giving you 15 seconds. Any question. It could be a question you asked once and you didn't like the answer. Okay, hold on, I want to come back to you. You have 1, 2, anybody from back here? Guys, somebody. Everybody shy? You have all the answers? No one has a question? Okay, that's 1 more. Okay, so we're going to start. We're going to start with you first. Who had the hand up here? What the time is. Deep, profound question. Okay, fine. That's 20 after. Next, what was your question?
What do you say to someone
When they
ask you a hot?
explain your question more, right? It's a good question.
What do you tell someone and say, why are you?
Why do we do certain mitzvot? Okay, so that's question 1. His question is, there are certain mitzvot that we don't fully understand or don't understand. What do you tell somebody who asks you a question about that kind of mitzvah? In other words, if you have a command, respect your parents, it's not a chok, right? Most of the time. Okay, I can explain it. But some are difficult, so what do we do? Okay, so that's 1 question. It's the second question, but the first question we already answered quickly, so that's aside. We have 3 more. Someone back there, a gentleman back there, yes? Why does Judaism follow halachically the mother? Okay, that's an excellent question. Superb. That's question 2. Let's get 2 more. Yes? Why is God referred to as a man? These are good questions. So far we need 60 or 70 minutes. But okay, let's do last question in the spirit of Passover. 4 questions. Anybody else? Any other question? These are 3 excellent questions so far. No? No, that's it. We're all good? Oh, go, yes. What time is it? 2 minutes from last time you asked. Meaning you have to define your question. What do you mean by that?
You said we're having questions.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. It's an ambiguous question. If we have time, we'll get to it. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so that's it. We're good. We have 3 questions and maybe a 4th. Okay. Excellent questions. At the outset, I'll tell you that your questions really all obviously, and you're probably aware of this, you are. Your questions all need a longer discussion. I'm sure you all know that. So what I could offer is a perspective, a beginning of a framework, a soundbite. And of course, your questions are excellent and they deserve a much deeper discussion, but because of time, we're going to just do a bit of it. Okay. There's one tradition, one teaching that answers all three questions. It took time to find. I didn't have Rabbi Google. There's one interesting teaching that puts these questions together. Oh, okay. Who was the founding father of the Jewish people? Abraham. The verse that sets all of Jewish history in motion is a very interesting verse. Anybody happen to know it? It's an interesting verse. So this is the first syllables of all of Jewish history. It's in the Bible. God appears to Abraham out of the blue, to Abraham and Sarah. And he tells Abraham and Sarah, Lech lecha me'artzecha, leave the land you're in. They lived in a pagan land and a land of chaos, terrible crime. So Abraham and Sarah live in a pagan world filled with crime and horrible. You all studied a bit of history. A lot of human history is very problematic. So they lived in a very difficult world. So God appears to Abraham, and the verse says God comes to Abraham and Sarah and says, leave the space you're in, the environment you're in, the culture you're in. Lech lecha me'artzecha, leave your land and journey with me to a new land, to a promised land that we're going to build together. A land of morality, of goodness, of reciprocity, of love, of generosity, a space that you would want to grow up. Imagine you live in a place where you don't have to fear at night, where you can walk, where their families are beautiful, where there's justice. A good world. Or in Jewish terminology, build a beautiful world, to repair the world. So Jewish history, the first syllables that start Jewish history is God comes to Abraham and Sarah, says, leave this space you're in, journey together to build a new beautiful world. And Jews have been on that journey for thousands of years. Asks our tradition, that's the verse in the Bible. But why did God select Abraham? What was his resume? Soon you're going to start applying to colleges, you need a resume. What was Abraham's resume? Why did God appear to him? It's a good question. Who was Abraham and Sarah? Why them? It's a good question. So they give this interesting vignette of why Abraham and Sarah, and this, I believe, begins to answer your three questions, and even a bit of the fourth. But listen, it's a bit complicated, it's a bit deep, but a lot of you are probably very mature, and you probably have mostly very good minds. And so listen, it's a powerful idea about Judaism, very powerful. It says, it's like Abraham and Sarah were walking in this deep forest, dense forest, and after miles of that, they encounter a beautiful palace, extraordinary palace. Except the palace was burning with flames, a fire was poured. So Abraham said there has to be a king, an architect who built and designed and cares for the palace, obviously. At the same time, where is he? Or her, what's happening here? There's flames engulfing the whole palace. So our tradition says that's what Abraham was doing for all his years before God. Abraham looked at the world, looked at the intricacy of the beauty, the marvel of creation, a beautiful world, a beautiful hearts, beautiful people. And he said, history and the world, humanity has such capacity for goodness and beauty and majesty. This couldn't just evolve. There's got to be a creator. He lived in a pagan world. No one believed in some invisible creator. But Abraham said, this world has palace elements to it. People, a heart could be a palace. A mind could be a palace. The world, it didn't evolve. There's a palace. There's got to be a palace. At the same time, Abraham looked at human history and said, there's a fire, there's hatred, there's animosity, there's real sickos in the world. There's a lot of evil. Killing, death, destruction, horrible abuse. It's also very true. So Abraham was torn between the palace and the flames. A beautiful world points to a creator, a king. the fires of hatred of human history that points to randomness, to evolution with no God. You get it? Contradiction? You see the two? Abraham was wondering. So the Medrash says at that moment the king appeared in the window, God, and said, Abraham, you're right. Let's journey together to extinguish the flame, to make a beautiful palace, to turn the whole world into a palace for God, a promised land. Let's redeem the world. You heard of the term tikkun olam, to make a better world? Let's start this journey. It started with Abraham. To extinguish all of, anybody who's studying history, philosophy, thought, all of philosophy and religions fall into almost these two camps. There's a very big school in human history and philosophy that says the world, they only see the fire. History is a random accident. Brute power makes right. Crush anybody who gets in your way. Because live and be merry, because tomorrow you drop dead and it's all over. Most empires and most kings through most of history believed in that. And many people believe in it today. Only the fire. There is another school of thought that says everything's wonderful, and if there's suffering, it's because you sinned or you have too much expectations. And so a lot of philosophy is only fire, and there's another group of religion and faith, it's all good, only palace. What's Judaism? What's Abraham? Born in a question, refuses to reconcile either. To be a Jew is to have a question. Judaism, according to our tradition, is born in a question, not in an answer. It's born by a human being saying, the world seems to have incredible capacity. Human beings do. So when you say, I want to be a good doctor, a good lawyer, I want to have a meaningful relationship, I want to have a beautiful home, I want to be a beautiful wife, a beautiful husband, I want to make a difference. These are all deep, holy ambitions. But the world sometimes is cruel. And there's flames of hatred and destruction. So how do we reconcile the two? What's the Jewish answer? Do lots of mitzvahs. Do good deeds, acts of kindness, of love and holiness, to extinguish the flame to make the world better. That's the Jewish mission. It started a very long time ago. Therefore, when we talk about God in Jewish tradition, in the texts of our tradition, God is often referred to, you ask, why a he? God is not a he, God is not a she, God is not a... In our tradition, parenthetically, God is referred to everything. A father, a mother, a nursing mother, a king, a warrior. God is referred to everything. Feminine, masculine. But often you are correct. The reason why the image and the metaphor is masculine, is he, in those verses, is because there's a deep emphasis in Judaism, emphasis, not the only, and we'll get to the other, of where the world is a difficult place and we need to conquer and fight the negativity in a very strong way. And in order to do that, you need certain precise guidelines often, moral guidelines, holy guidelines, 10 Commandments, for instance, don't. And often for a large group of society, especially for male children, which is half of society, a strong male figure is often more powerful for that, more effective, often. You'll all know in most of your homes, I suspect, sometimes your mother says, when your father comes home, you're looking at me like I'm from California. You don't have this here? You never heard, your mother never said, when your father comes home, there's going to be some serious discipline? No? Okay, maybe I made trouble when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I heard that. But so the male aspect, the masculine warrior fighting combative aspect is represented in that, because part of the task is to repair the world, and that's needed. At the same time, we come to your question. Jewish identity goes by the mother, not by the father. Identity. Property, the father. Money, tribe, father. Essence, identity, mother. Masculine, feminine. Because in Judaism, there's a great feminine part, and that is who nurtures the energy in the home of love, usually, or the emphasis of love, of kindness, in terms of time, in terms of empathy. It's the mother. So you have both in Judaism, and even more. Remember, here's a very beautiful moral teaching in Judaism, often overlooked. Who does most of the efforts and goes through most of the pain in terms of pregnancy and childbirth? Who does all the dirt? The father has a few minutes, you'll excuse me, of pleasure. And what does the mother do? The mother works very, very hard for 9 months, for 10 months, and then labor. You know how difficult it is? You know, some of you know how difficult. It's incredibly difficult. The most difficult thing a human being could do. So Judaism with a deep sensitivity, again, one of the aspects of it is, the mother worked for 10 months, life-threatening. Till modern times, your life was in danger in a very large majority of cases. But a mother who worked for a year, incredibly, to bring a new child into the world, Judaism says the ethical, the moral thing to do is that identity has to follow who? The father or the mother? The natural default has to be the mother. What the mom is, the child is. If the child later wants to change it with conversion and authentic, no problem. Converts are always allowed and admired. Our teachings say that Mashiach, the deepest Messiah comes from converts. Converts are embraced in Judaism. But the default position has to be the mom. Any other position would be cruel. The father one night, the mother a year, the identity goes to dad. So that amongst many other reasons. Also, the mother nurtures the thing. So in Judaism, we have this notion, and now we're going to come to your question. We're concluding with your question, but you're not listening anymore, so you're going to ask it for the next speaker next year. Hey, Charlie. The story is like this. So if our responsibility, the overarching task, is to extinguish the flames, to reveal the goodness in the world and in humanity and in our own soul, so we have the masculine part of it, which needs a war. Sometimes you need to be tough. Then you need the feminine, you need Jewish identity itself, which is kind and gentle and nurturing and loving. You need that. And although there are commands that we can't necessarily explain fully or at a certain juncture in history, what we always could explain is the overarching mission. And that is, to be a Jew is to refuse to accept the world as it is, or your class as it is, or your environment as it is, and say, because I could dream of a better world and a better neighborhood and a deeper life and a more meaningful life and a more joyous life and a deeper relationships, then I'm going to work to make that. I'm not going to settle. Some people say only flames, and some people say only palace. To be a Jewish, to say until we make the world a beautiful palace and our hearts a beautiful palace for love, for kindness, for God, then we're going to use the energy, the masculine energy we have and the sensitive feminine energy we have, and even the moments we don't understand, to forge forward to make that world a palace for God and for humanity. Amen.
You're tired. I know. It's the end of the day. I'm the final act. So just quickly, guys. I live in Israel from America. How many of you guys been to the States? Any of you? Not bad. How many been to Israel? Wow. And you guys go so often they wave you through passport control without looking at your passport? Okay, so born in America, lived in Israel the last 35 years. I basically teach history, but I'm not going to do history with you guys. I just wanted to ask you a question. I want to tell you a couple of really cool stories. So first of all, we got a holiday coming up in a few days. What holiday is it? Purim. You like Purim? Purim's like a fun holiday. It's the first holiday I came to Israel for. I saw a bunch of drunk Jews. I said, what a party holiday. But Purim's unique in that the book of Esther, which we read the Megillah, is one of the two books of the Bible that what? Unique because it doesn't? Excellent. Doesn't have God's name in it. Okay, but I want to use that as a jump-off point to just talk about a topic. We have an idea, guys, that for the last couple thousand years, has God appeared to anyone in this room recently? If not, I'm going to be concerned if it's answer yes. We have an idea is introduced in Purim called Hester Panim, that God hides. He doesn't appear to us like Moses at Mount Sinai in a cloud. That would be pretty cool, right? None of us would have any problem getting up to go pray in the morning if God appeared to us the night before. So we have this idea that God hides, but he's always there speaking to us. The concept is called hashgacha. Any of you guys heard of the term hashgacha? Hashgacha is that when they supervise kosher food, it's called hashgacha. Pratit. None of you guys learned Hebrew? Prat is personal supervision. That God actually is always talking to us, but in hidden ways. Not a voice appearing from heaven like suddenly you see God in your dream or something like that. So I want to give you a little skill, how to learn how to get sensitive to Hashgacha Pratit by giving you a few stories. And they're all really cool stories. They're things that all happened to me or I heard directly. One happened to me that I'll start off with something light and I'll get to something a little heavier and really cool at the end and kind of emotional. The first example, Hashgacha Pratit, when I first came to Israel, I wasn't raised religious at all. I didn't know anything. We used to have ham and cheese on matzah for Passover in my house. I'm not making that up. My son asked me, he goes, Dad, why'd you bother with the matzah? I said, it was Passover. We couldn't have bread. But I became religious, and I'm in Israel, and I go down. Who's been to the Western Wall? Okay, who's left a note in the wall? You know, I never did in my life. I'm 35 years in Israel. So I was in Israel for 6 months, and I become religious, and I was really spiritually intense. And one night I go down like 1 a.m. There's like no one around. And I said, I've been in Israel 6 months. I never left a note. So I reach in my pocket and I didn't put this in for props. I really do carry. I still till today, I actually do have a smartphone, but I always carry a pad and a pen. I've been doing this my whole life. Old school, I know. So I reach in my pocket and I pull out my pad and I have no pen. So at the Western Wall, finding paper isn't so hard, but pens are not lying around. So I said, forget it. I guess I'm not going to be leaving a note this time. So I'm sitting there. You guys know the inside part of the Western Wall? Well, the little girls don't know it because you don't have it on your, but the men have this inside part over there. I'm sitting there a few minutes later thinking, okay, I'll leave a note next time. There's a tap on my shoulder. And I look around, and there's a guy named David Baum, who was a guy from New Jersey who I came to Israel more or less the same time. And he leans over to me and he says, you know, I've been in Israel for 6 months. Remember, I had the pad but no pen. He leans over, he goes, I've been in Israel 6 months. I never left a note. And I have a pen but no paper. See the difference? That's hashgacha pratit. You ever think about someone and they call you, you think about someone you haven't seen for weeks or months and they appear? Ever happen to you? You need to speak to someone and they call you? Whoever happened, something like that. We call it coincidence. Okay, that's what happens. Those are little coincidences. We say that, that's God talking to you. But let me give you a cooler story. And I hope no one gets upset, but they're interesting stories. So, Israel's been involved in a lot of wars. All my kids, by the way, were in the army. My oldest son was a sniper and a medic in the paratroopers. Isn't that a great combination of jobs? Sniper and medic. My second oldest son was a combat medic in Golani Brigade. You guys heard of Golani? Tzanchanim, you heard of this stuff? By the way, the biggest rivalry in the army is these two groups, and I had them in the same bedroom together. My twin girls, by the way, my middle daughter did national service, but my twin girls just finished the second commandment of post-IDF Army service. What's the first commandment of post-IDF Army service? Any of you guys planning to do the Army? None of you? You don't want to? No, okay, whatever. What's the first commandment of post-IDF Army service? Thou shalt work in a mall somewhere outside Israel selling Dead Sea products. You get these guys in South Africa? Okay. What's the second commandment? Thou shalt then take all the money they made selling the Dead Sea products and go on a really inexpensive tour of Southeast Asia or South America for like 6-8 months. They just came back from 8 months in Southeast Asia. Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, you name it. One of them was a combat medic, female combat, little girl. She's a combat medic, and her sister was a chief engineer in the Navy, which is pretty funny. She was parking these big submarines the Israeli Navy has, and she has no idea how to parallel park a car. But anyway, that's just a side story about my family. But in the Operation Cast Lead, you guys know there was a war in Gaza in 2008, 2009? I mean, I know for you that's already like a fair amount of time back there. The first boy killed was my neighbor's son, Dvir Emanuelov, a wonderful human being, very good friend with my two oldest boys. And I remember I'm a tour guide in Israel, and I'm out guiding, and I get a call. My wife says, Dvir's gone. And I couldn't guide. I had to stop. I had to go home. Our whole community went to the funeral. So anyway, Dvir's mother is named Dalia. And poor Dalia not only lost her son, but lost her husband to cancer, pretty much close to the same time. 6 months after Dvir passed away, Dalia's daughter says, Mom, we got to go on living. Life goes on. I'm going to take you. And outside Jerusalem, there's a place called the Artists Fair, and they have these free concerts at night. So she says, it's been 6 months. I'm taking you to a concert. And she drags Dalia to the concert. She doesn't want to go. They're sitting in the bleachers, waiting for the concert to start, and a little kid walks up to her. In Israel, little kids walk around like, you ever notice this? Like little 3-year-olds walk around like unattended. I'm sure it doesn't happen here so much. But and she starts little kid starts flirting with Dalia, and she hears from behind a voice of a woman saying, come back and sit with your brother Dvir. So Dvir is not that common a name, like Avraham and Sarah, like Joe Cohen is a pretty common name, but Dvir is not that common a name. So Dalia hears the name of her dead son. She turns around and she sees a woman holding like a 6-month-old baby. And she says, is your baby's name Dvir? And the woman says, yeah. She goes, do you mind? Like, it's not that common a name. Why did you pick that name? And the woman said, I'm happy to tell you. When I was pregnant with Dvir, I had serious complications in the pregnancy, and I was on bed watch. Is that what you guys call in South Africa? Like a woman is confined to her bed if she's it's called bed watch, and bed rest in America they call it. Shmirat Leida in Hebrew. I was in Shmirat Leida in a hospital bed for like 3 months with the doctor telling me I had a very high probability I'm going to lose the baby. And it was during that war in Gaza. And I'm lying in the bed reading the newspaper. And I read this story about this amazing young man named Dvir Emanuelov, who was the first kid killed in Gaza. And I was so blown away. I made a pact with God. I said, God, if you allow this baby to live, and if he's healthy, and if he's a boy, I'm going to name him Dvir after that young man. And Dalia said, you named your baby after my son. And the woman didn't even believe it. It took her a while to convince her that was really, now she sort of adopted that kid as her own child. That's a much higher level of hashgacha pratit. Do you guys hear that? That's like, what's the statistical probability of her sitting in the bleachers and a little kid walking up and happens to have the same name? You think she got a little consolation out of that, of thinking that her son inspired a woman to name her child after him? But guys, that's how it works. God's always speaking to us. That's what the story of Purim's about. He's always there behind the scenes arranging stuff. And if you learn to focus on this stuff, you see it happens all the time. One more little lighter story and then I'm done. I was guiding a group of, you guys know that Jewish Women's Renaissance Project thing that we do? A lot of South African ladies do it. We have the men's version of the program too. This is a good story for teenagers. You'll appreciate it. I was taking the men's version of the trip. We're going up to Sfat, and the men sometimes get emotional. Men usually only get emotional about sports. Occasionally they get emotional about other things. Women get much more emotional about many other things. But a guy gets up on the way. Who's been to Sfat? Okay, nice place, right? The artist street there. So this guy gets up, and he's getting all emotional because he's saying, I'm in Israel, and my teenage son is here. I'm sure none of you have these problems because you have great relationships with your parents. You never fight. But he's talking about how he's having this horrible relationship with his son, and they're not speaking anymore. And, they both happen to be in Israel at the same time, and he's so torn apart. And I'm telling you, a half hour later, we're in Sfat. We park the bus. We get off. We're walking down the street, and we run smack into his son. You guys know the street I'm talking about in Sfat with all the artist galleries on it? Like right in the middle of the street, he's standing there. And for guys, it was kind of mushy, but they just hugged and they started crying. And what's the statistical probability of walking down the street a half hour after he's telling us the story, and he bumps into his son? And it was an amazing thing to see. Guys, some things are dramatic, like that story with Dvir. Some things are little things like I don't have my paper and my pen. But guys, this happens all the time. Trust me, open your eyes, think about it. You'll see it all the time. It happens in Jewish history, in big stories like Purim, and it happens in our lives pretty much every day if we're paying attention. Guys, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.